Health experts and community leaders in Joplin team up to promote vaccination efforts.
A new investigation finds New York Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed at least 11 women. I'm Michael George with the accuser's claims and the renewed calls for him to resign.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Joplin area advocates and health officials are pushing vaccination efforts. This is KOAM News at 5. The Southwest Missouri Democrats held a news conference in partnership with Access Family Care in Joplin with the goal to share information about the area's current COVID-19 situation and to raise vaccine rates. The president of Mercy Hospital's Joplin Clinic says she wanted to raise awareness about vaccination in the community because of increased hospitalizations due to the virus.
Our hospitals are full. This is indeed the truth. We do not have the capacity to keep our friends, our neighbors, our family members here at our local hospitals when people need that acute care. We are having to transfer those individuals hours away.
Mercy's Joplin Clinic president adds that anyone seeking information about the vaccine should reach out to a healthcare provider. President Biden delivered an update on the nation's fight against the coronavirus. The president says vaccination rates are under 50% in 17 states. The White House has been working with private sector businesses that are now implementing vaccine mandates for their employees. Checking in with Michael Hayslip now for a first look at the weather.
Dow, live look outside of the mothership, and that haze, it still remains. We'll break that down a little bit because that has an indicator as far as our air quality goes, but I tell you what, mild as can be for the beginning of August as we see temperatures ranging from the low to mid 80s right now. And a clear Skywatch storm tracker, even though we had a little bit of rain that was right on the Arkansas-Missouri state line earlier this morning, that's now moved all the way down into the northwestern portion of the natural state. Look at that, right along the Rockies. That's where we're going to see thunderstorm activity. But for us, nice mid-level jet stream moving straight out of Canada. And that means much more mild temperatures than what we would expect. Our record? How about 105 degrees if you go back to 2011? Not even close to that. Let's enjoy this while it lasts. Now, as we push through the evening, nice thing is we're just about done with any chances for rain. Sunset at 8:23, and as we push into tomorrow, more mild temperatures, but Dow coming up here in just a little bit. I do want to talk about that air quality and the heat wave that's on its way for the weekend.
All right, catch you then. The Pentagon went on lockdown today after a burst of violence that killed an officer. Officials said the officer was stabbed and that the suspect was shot by law enforcement, died at the scene. The incident occurred on a Metro bus platform that's part of the Pentagon Transit Center. The lockdown has been lifted, but no employees are allowed in or out of the building. An independent investigation has determined New York Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women, violating state and federal laws. But the Democrat maintained in a taped message that he never touched anyone inappropriately, saying, "That's not who I am." Michael George reports on the fallout from New York.
A defiant New York Governor Andrew Cuomo challenged an independent investigation's findings that he sexually harassed multiple women.
I never touched anyone inappropriately or made inappropriate sexual advances.
The investigation found all 11 accusers credible.
The investigation found that Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed current and former New York State employees by engaging in unwelcome and non-consensual touching and making numerous offensive comments of a suggestive and sexual nature.
Investigators say an employee who they identified as Executive Assistant Number 1 endured repeated physical violations.
The governor hugged Executive Assistant Number 1 and reached under her blouse to grab her breast.
The 5-month investigation also found the governor's administration created a hostile work environment.
The governor and his senior team took actions to retaliate against at least one former employee for coming forward.
But this investigation doesn't carry any penalties. Whether or not Governor Cuomo will face civil or criminal charges will be up to the accusers and law enforcement.
We're not only dealing with the possibility of criminal trials, criminal cases and civil cases, but we're really dealing with his political future.
The Attorney General's report is expected to factor into whether the New York State Assembly decides there are grounds for impeachment. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
President Biden has called on Governor Cuomo to resign. And in a joint statement, New York's two Democratic U.S. Senators, Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand, said they continue to believe Governor Cuomo should resign. The drought in California is getting worse. More than 46% of the state is now considered to be in exceptional drought, the highest level. That's up from just over 5% 3 months ago. Some communities are running out of water and are forced to rely on water trucks after their wells dried up. NASA and Boeing have postponed today's launch of Boeing's Starliner spacecraft after engineers discovered issues with the propulsion system. NASA would eventually like to use the spaceship to get astronauts to and from the International Space Station. This flight was supposed to be a do-over after a 2019 flight was unsuccessful. A subsequent NASA-Boeing investigation recommended 80 actions before Starliner should fly again. It's unclear when another test flight will be scheduled. Still ahead, trying to save the eviction moratorium.
Tens of billions of dollars in emergency rental assistance hasn't yet reached Americans who face possible eviction. I'm Natalie Brandt with the struggle for tenants and landlords and the latest efforts to get help to those who need it.
And next in Health Watch, how your diet can play a role in your mental health. Topping today's Health Watch, the American Academy of Pediatrics is recommending all children who test positive for COVID-19 have a follow-up visit with their doctor after the quarantine period. Pediatricians can evaluate any long-term symptoms and discuss vaccination with parents. The Academy is also recommending all children be monitored for the emotional and behavioral effects of the pandemic at every doctor's visit. Fruits and veggies may help keep your mind sharp as you age. A professor of medicine at Harvard University found foods high in flavonoids like apples, peppers, strawberries, they can enhance your brain functions. Flavonoids are compounds filled with antioxidants. The researchers found over the course of 25 years, those who ate as little as 0.02 of an ounce of flavonoids every day had a 20% reduced risk of cognitive decline compared to those who consumed almost no flavonoids on a daily basis. About 17 million adults in the U.S. suffer with depression. It's well known that food plays a major role in our physical health, but it can also play a role in our mental health. About 1 in 5 Americans will experience at least one bout of depression at some point in their life, but
there's certain foods that have been shown to be good for brain health and potentially affect mood.
Such as fish.
Omega-3 fatty acids that are in fish can help to protect our brain.
In fact, a study out of Spain found those who ate a Mediterranean diet filled with fresh fruits and vegetables, protein-rich legumes, and fatty fish and olive oil were 50% less likely to develop depression. Other foods that can boost your mood include walnuts, flaxseed, chia seeds, probiotics such as kombucha and kimchi. Also, lean proteins such as chicken and turkey can help to stabilize blood sugar levels. Some foods to avoid include processed foods, alcohol, and sugar.
If you do a lot of sugar, you can get a sugar rush and then maybe a sugar crash.
A study out of London found men who had 67 or more grams of sugar a day, which is just under 2 cans of Coke, were 23% more likely to develop depression over a 5-year period. Some food for thought for better mental health. And you coffee lovers are going to like this. A Harvard study found that 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day was a mood booster and was linked to lower risk of suicide. And that is a look at today's health news. Later, union advocates push for another vote at an Alabama Amazon plant, saying the retail giant swayed the first vote.
These hazy skies outside, what does it mean? Well, as a matter of fact, we're going to break it all down from the color contour and explain why if you have breathing issues, it could be a good time to stay indoors. We'll be right back.
That's BuffaloRun.com.
Calling all artists. Neosho Arts Council invites you to enter the 26th annual Thomas Hart Benton Art Competition and Exhibition. Cash prizes for both emerging and professional divisions, including $500 for Best of Show. Enter online at neoshoarts.net today.
Ashley Home Store's summer closeout sale is going on now. Shop amazing closeout deals starting as low as $119. Plus, save up to $1,000 off your purchase. Or get 0% interest for 4 years with no minimum purchase and no money down. Only at Ashley Home Store.
Tell you what, it's been hard to beat our temperatures for the beginning of August, but however, we look at this haze that just keeps on hanging over the 4 states, and we've got a couple more days to go. We're going to kind of break that down here from a fundamental standpoint and explain to you why that could be a danger to maybe you or certainly a family or a friend. Right now in Joplin, we sit at 83 degrees as we take a live look over 7th and Rangeline. We got a bustling intersection on us right now. Temperatures anywhere from the low to the mid 80s, everybody very close together, and all that rain that we had right there on the Missouri-Arkansas border, that is a thing of the past. Now, as we shift our attention to our watches and warnings, do want to point out, see that air quality warning? Now, specifically, it's for Kansas City, but I want to point out the expiration time. It doesn't expire until tomorrow night at 9 p.m. We've been talking so much about the West Coast wildfires, all that smoke and ash gets in the jet stream, it makes its way over the Rocky Mountains, and is now here in the Midwest. So that's that haze that just pops up every now and then. So let's do this. Let's go to the air quality map, and I'll break down these colors here in a second. But here's where we are currently. See that orange indicator throughout southeast Kansas, little skosh of northeast Oklahoma, and then most of southwest Missouri and the rest of southeast Kansas and northeast Oklahoma in the yellow zone. But let's go ahead and fast forward to tomorrow, because here's some good news. We see everything breaking down and moving down to the south. That's because the jet stream is going to carry that all the way to the Gulf Coast. Now, what do the colors mean? All right, so for the yellow, air quality acceptable, risk for some people, but I want to point out this orange category, members of sensitive groups, and that's when we're talking about asthma, COPD. That's when I don't want you to be out for elongated periods of time, and especially lay off of any strenuous activity until we get to the end of the week. Now, why is it moving down to the south? Well, look at this. Look at the jet stream right there. See how it jumps up, carries over the Rockies, jumps in the middle of that jet stream, and then it's going to take off toward the Arklatex region, and then eventually everybody on the Gulf Coast, they're going to have to deal with that air quality that we're dealing with right now. For the most part, we're going to have mild temperatures here for the next several days and not a whole lot of rain. We'll actually stay on the dry side. Even our afternoon raindrops probably last about 5 to 10 minutes. That'll be about the extent of it. And enjoy this while it lasts. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, Dow, because when we talk about air quality, hey, don't do any strenuous activity right now. Well, by the time the smoke and ash has passed, look at what happens. Right, we're right back into the end of July, where we get to run a string of 90s all the way through the middle of next week.
So what you're saying is when the weather is nice enough to be outside, the quality is too bad to be outside. When the air quality clears up, it's too hot.
And I'm not dismissing anything that those people have been through on the West Coast. I mean, it's absolutely devastating what they've been through. But yes, it's kind of like stay inside if you have breathing problems, and then by the time it all passes through, it's too hot.
Stay inside and then stay inside. Thanks, Lev. Folks in Joplin are gathering for the annual National Night Out. This is a live image. The Night Out is a crime prevention event sponsored by the National Association of Town Watch and co-sponsored locally by the Joplin Police Department. More than 38 million people in total all across North America will participate in the event. It's designed to raise crime prevention awareness and strengthen police-community partnerships. The Night Out kicks off at 5:30 at Schifferdecker Park in Joplin. People in Miami are donating blood as part of the Boots and Badges blood drive. The event is a friendly competition between the police department and the fire department. Anyone 16 years old and older is asked to stop by the Miami Civic Center to donate blood. Donors will receive a Boots and Badges t-shirt, a ticket to a local attraction, and be entered to win a pair of tickets to see country music artist Granger Smith at Buffalo Run Casino and Resort on Friday.
You know, they realize that police and firemen are heroes, but our blood donors are also heroes, because without that bag of blood at the hospital, they're risking their lives to save someone that may not make it at the hospital if we don't have blood there for that patient who might be having a bleeding emergency.
That event's going to continue tomorrow from noon to 6 p.m. Coming up, efforts to reinstate the federal eviction moratorium. First, though, we honor a local member of the armed forces. Jalen Ibarra served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 2012 to 2016 and then joined the Navy in 2020. His hometown, Webb City, Missouri, and we salute Ensign Jalen Ibarra, a four-state hero. Topping Consumer Watch today, the Biden administration is pushing state and local officials to rapidly disperse tens of billions of dollars in COVID relief rental assistance, days after the federal moratorium on evictions expired. But lawmakers and advocacy groups say it might not be enough for the millions of Americans facing eviction. Natalie Brand reports from Capitol Hill.
For the past 5 days, Missouri Congresswoman Cori Bush has camped out on the steps of the U.S. Capitol as millions of Americans face possible eviction following the recent expiration of a federal moratorium.
I do know what it's like to have babies sleeping in a car with trash bags, my belongings, everything I own in trash bags, because I know what that's like. There is no way that I could sit back and be quiet.
Civil rights activist Jesse Jackson visited Bush Tuesday along with clergy members and other House Democrats. Nationwide advocates are preparing for an influx of requests for help.
We face the very real possibility in the coming weeks and months of both a historic wave of evictions and housing instability and further spread and preventable deaths from COVID-19.
House Democrats say Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told them on a call Tuesday that her department is working hard to help cities and states distribute more of the $46 billion in emergency rental assistance that's already been approved by Congress.
There's a great deal of funding that has not gone out nearly as quickly as it should have gone out. We recognize that issue.
In addition to tenants worried about losing their homes, Bob Pinniger of the National Apartment Association says small property owners and independent rental owners are hurting too.
This has gone on for such a long period of time. We're over a year now, and people's savings are being depleted in a dramatic way.
Advocates say it could take weeks or even months for the federal aid to be distributed. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
President Biden today announced the CDC is working on a new 60-day evictions ban in areas heavily impacted by the pandemic. There could be a do-over in Alabama, where an attempt to unionize an Amazon plant failed by a more than 2-to-1 margin earlier this year. An official with the National Labor Relations Board says Amazon improperly sought to influence that election and recommended its results be set aside. The NLRB is deciding how to proceed and could order a new election. Amazon objected to that idea, noting that the first vote was overwhelmingly against unionizing. We'll be right back. The CBS Evening News is next. Then on KOAM News at 6, Tyson Foods announces it'll require all of its employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Plus, we're going to have more on efforts by Joplin health officials to increase local vaccination rates. And the Fort Scott National Historic Site will conduct a geophysical survey to better understand how the fort looked in the 1840s. Stay with us. CBS Evening News, KOAM News at 6. One Pennsylvania couple is now about $12,000 poorer, but that was the cost of removing close to 500,000 bees. Yeah, the Weavers say they knew there were bees in the walls of the 150-year-old farmhouse when they bought it near Philadelphia in December. The previous owner had disclosed it, said, yeah, there are a lot of bees, but that didn't bother the Weavers too much. They say they didn't see any bees. They weren't worried, really. Then spring came. The hives became active again, as they do, I guess. The Weavers turned to a general contractor and beekeeper who says he relocated about 450,000 honeybees to his farm. The lesson for home buyers is no matter how good a deal on the property appears, always get it inspected.
Running joke on the KOAM morning news. Michael has a problem with anything with wings and stingers. I cannot fathom.
450,000 problems.
No, Dow, I'm fine.
More difficult than removing them would be counting them, I imagine.
I'm fine with where I
But
am
we need
now.
honeybees, and now the farmer
We
has
do.
them.
We do.
You
It's
don't want
wasps.
buzzing in the walls.
It's wasps in particular. Yeah, I know honeybees are important. I love you, insects.
the weather.
Yeah, right. Highs today in the 80s. The bees are going to love it. All right. We're not going to love it by the time it hits the weekend with a heat wave.
We'll see you at 6. Let's make it a great evening.